Welcome back to another episode of For the Record. We took a little week off. It was a shortened week last week, and so it's a little bit light schedule. We didn't have all the committee reports, and so, we didn't have a ton to speak about.
We tried. We were rushed. It just didn't come out good last week.
We were frazzled.
Right, and the thought was, we can come back next week. There might be a little bit more to talk about. We got a lot to talk about this week.
But we got to break it up a little bit, too, because we only have one day left. So we're going to talk some stuff today and then really hit everything on
Yeah,
on
going
Monday
to talk
when we're
state
back.
politics. We might delve into some national politics topics here. For audio-only listeners, I'm holding a tweet by the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who says, "Congratulations, world. It's time for peace." I think
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, it doesn't matter who's president if they say that. 100%. Absolutely.
We may get into it. All-time great week, in my opinion, for any president. But anywho, Senator Brian Pettyjohn, Deanna Killen, our Chief of Staff, Christy Wright, our Policy Director. I'm Matt Rebel, our Communications Director. Off in the corner here is our intern, Blake. We also have our Communications Specialist, Peyton Mullen, who's helping us behind the scenes. But Deanna,
it is a full room in here today.
It is. It's getting hot. We also have corn on the table because it is corn day.
I don't know what's going on. Brian put corn behind me on my chair, so if it
but
falls,
that's the throne. You're on the throne.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, very deserving.
All right, Queen, what do we got on the agenda to talk about?
All right, let's start with bond bill. That was on the agenda today. But
it was on the agenda today, wasn't it? Yeah,
we're just going in.
Republicans went.
I know. I mean, I thought we were going to do some other stuff, but no. Let's just dive into bond bill. Okay,
let's go.
So yeah, bond bill was on the agenda today, and it was defeated.
It was.
So I mean, we put out a statement. Look, there are things that we are looking for. That the only leverage we have right now are two bills. We have bond bill and grant and aid. Bond bill is the one that started in the Senate. So, we let the majority know, look, we have concern with Senate Bill 159 over in the House, and we don't want that to pass. And
right.
And for to remind everybody, 159 was the bill that overrode Sussex County government's decision to grant a conditional use for a substation there on the Indian River Bay. So we have a problem with that. Actually, it's on the Indian River. We have a problem with that. It's about local control. The local government decided to deny the conditional use. That's number one. Number two, it's in the courts right now.
Right.
So let's let things play out. And we drew a line with the bond bill and Senate Bill 159. So if the House doesn't pass it, then we'll go ahead and pass the bond bill.
Right, and we don't do this lightly. I mean,
no.
we very seldom hold up bond bill, but like you said, this is really the only leverage that we have working in the minority. They need our votes to pass this. We don't want to hold up.
They need a vote from us.
A vote, correct.
One
and
vote.
we don't want to hold up grants and aid for the fact that a lot of nonprofits and things like that.
And fire companies.
Correct, fire companies.
ambulance,
So that's why we would prefer to use bond bill as leverage.
And what's in bond? Do we?
A lot of capital.
Yeah, that's our
Can we
capital.
explain to them what's in bond?
Well, you could have let me know that you were going to ask the question so I
Sorry.
could pull up bond bill or something like that. Good
You
grief.
should be ready, Brian.
It's Senate Bill, 200?
Yes.
25?
200.
Oh,
200.
200. I'm thinking
Yeah.
the budget. Sorry.
Senate Bill 200 is our capital improvement.
What do you want?
It's well, $30 million went to 3 colleges, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For what?
Capital.
There are some
Yeah,
good
I think
for
a lot of
building.
it's like
Yeah.
deferred maintenance and things
yeah,
of that
it is a lot of
nature.
deferred maintenance
So
on that.
capital improvements.
Right.
There are some good things in there. You've got, money that goes to the conservation districts to do some conservation work.
DSU,
But a lot of it is
money is for a sports facility. Is that correct? Right?
I think $16 million went to University of Delaware. Is that $16
I thought
million?
it was $30 million went to UD, Deltech, and DSU. Was that
God, this print is small.
correct?
Okay.
Thanks, policy director, for wanting to get into the weeds of this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but I mean, they don't know what bond. I mean, they might know it's a money bill, but they don't know.
So
they don't understand
strategic fund, $5 million.
Yeah.
Riverfront Development Corporation, which is Wilmington, $9.75 million. We have line items for the city of Wilmington, and this is actually where I do have a problem with bond bill.
Newcastle
We've
County.
got City of Wilmington Land Bank, $5 million. We've got $600,000 for the Emmanuel Dining Room. We've got what's that? $1 million for the William Hicks Anderson Community Center. We've got $8.4 million for capital initiatives for the city of Wilmington.
Wow.
This is the big problem that I've got. So this is for the city of Wilmington for capital initiatives by the city. I have a request for the town of George, actually 2 requests for the town of Georgetown. I have to use my community reinvestment fund to fund that, whereas this is a line item in the bond bill. And there's where I have some problems. I mean, city of Wilmington, look, they're the biggest city, but they have a lot of state properties there. They get a 100% reimbursement from the state for the cost of what they would pay in property tax. Georgetown gets, I think, 30%. Dover, I think 45%. So Wilmington is getting a good amount of money from the state as it is. And, the rest of the cities and towns in the state have to go, beg, borrow, and plead to get, money from the bond bill. And I just think, we need to look at that. We need to look at that. We need to look at the fact that there is the same amount of money that the University of Delaware and Delaware State and Del Tech all get when University of Delaware, and I love UD, but they have a huge endowment
It's
right
like
now.
$2 billion.
Like a $2 billion
Plus,
endowment.
they had lines in the general fund.
Right. So
Non-taxed endowment, too, I might add. Which,
Right. So, I mean, look, there are some good things in here. I mean, $2.5 million to the Delaware Veterans Home for the roof and rooftop units. I mean, no problem there. We've got, there's good money in there.
And the plan is to hopefully, get this through. Hopefully we can make
How do they solicit projects? I mean, it's the legislators on
a
committee
lot of
have to.
So a lot of it's put in the governor's recommended budget, which I should note also. I believe 3 or 4 of those line items that have been for the city of Wilmington.
Yeah.
Of course, the city mayor there now is former Governor Carney. I don't believe any of those line items was in his initial recommended budget or the one that Governor Meyer kind of tweaked when he gave his budget presentation. The reset.
There were some in there. Yeah.
There were some, but I think a few of the line items in there weren't even requested by either, yet somehow they ended up being allocated to which.
Well, because legislators on bond bill, they could be their priorities and they could be put in.
Exactly. But so bond bill, long story short, is consists of one-time allocations toward capital improvement projects. So your roads, your police departments,
Schools.
various some school capital improvement projects, things of that nature.
I think Red Clay had about 10 lines in there.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so, but that's what that is. The official term is capital improvement budget. Here in the building, we always call it bond bill, but it requires 3/4 vote of the entire legislature in order to pass it, and so
they need one of our members.
They need at least one of our members. So.
Just a couple of little things, too. So just because it's in the bond bill doesn't mean we're issuing bonds for everything.
Well, that's true.
So just a little bit of a breakdown. So our bonding authority is based on a 5% debt limit. So we can only bond 5% of what our anticipated revenue is. So our bonding authority for fiscal year 26 is a little over $339 million. There's things called bond reprogramming where there was bond allocations from previous years that are being changed or they weren't used. So that's another 53, almost 54 million. General fund cash. That's what's called cash to the bond bill. So this was money that is anticipated revenue, but it wasn't allocated within the budget. So it's cash into the bond bill of $368 million and change. So $761 million is total funding available. Transportation Trust Fund adds another $255. million, so it ends up being just over $1 billion for our total bond sources.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of how those numbers break down on the bond bill. But it didn't pass today.
Yeah, so we did put a statement out on our social media, so check that out.
Would you like to read our statement?
Go ahead, you got it.
No, you got it right there.
I don't
Go
have
ahead.
my glasses, Brian. I'm gonna have to hold it this close to my face to read it.
Oh, it's that.
Yeah, I'm that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'll just read it then.
Yeah, you read it on the floor, so
I know. Yeah.
practice.
As we enter our final days of session, there are still outstanding pieces of legislation that require further discussion and negotiation. We believe the bond bill should be considered only after those conversations have taken place and a path forward has been established. Holding the bond bill until the final item of session helps ensure those discussions happen in a good faith way and with the urgency that they deserve. We want to thank everyone involved in crafting this year's bond bill. Our caucus remains committed to passing a responsible capital budget that reflects sound investments and a collaborative process.
There you go. Great job, whoever wrote that.
I know.
Yeah.
So was that you?
Well, it was Matt.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'm not one to brag.
Oh, okay. Deanna is. That's why I was asking.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So the budget, we did pass the budget today.
Yes.
So that is off to the governor for his signature.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So, maybe
Getting
by the
into that
time
too,
that's,
all right.
yeah. So maybe by the time this is published, I don't know. We'll see how fast this can get out. But there's talk that the governor may not like everything that's in the budget. Now, Delaware has a provision in the Constitution where the governor has a line item veto. So he can veto out certain items of the appropriations bills if he chooses to. So we'll see. There's been talk that he may exercise that authority. We don't know. We haven't heard from the governor's office directly. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll keep everyone posted.
And the General Assembly can still override those line item vetoes. It's a 3/5 vote in each chamber.
If the Democrats stick together, they do have the votes to override
they do.
that veto.
And it's a House bill, so it would have to, if he vetoes it or even vetoes some lines, and it gets returned to the House for them to act on first. So we'll see what happens there.
Oh, you can veto line by line?
On the appropriations bills, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we can meet with the governor and give him some suggestions.
That would be great.
Yeah. Let's do that. I'm sure he'll listen.
What else we got, Deanna?
All right, so we talked about this the last time Christy was on, HB 210, which is the bill that increases penalties for farmers regarding environmental, I guess,
violations.
It was,
violations,
yeah,
that's what I'm looking for.
violations for commercial polluters.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it lumped farmers in with industry.
Right. So they did put an amendment on to take out farm, but
Well, it took out everything that was in Title III, which is
Right.
agriculture.
Department of Ag.
Yeah.
Right, but it did keep in, which we talked about last week, CAFO, which is a concentrated animal feeding operation, which includes things like dairy cows, swine, chicken, so your poultry houses.
Mm-hmm.
So they are still included in this. And as you had stated, the fines increase. They could be like $40,000 a day. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was like a max cap of a discretionary daily fine of $40,000 a day.
Mm-hmm.
So this bill did make it out of Senate committee. I don't know if we will be seeing it on June 30th or not, but there does seem to be a rush to get this through.
And it's because of what happened in Newcastle County with
At
the
the refinery,
refinery air quality alerts that wasn't there more than one? There was two.
They were over their limits for several weeks, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand
nothing,
that.
Nothing was done, I guess, apparently.
And I get that. I that's fair. And I think if they want to do a bill to address that issue, that's fine. I just don't understand. Well, I do understand because I think we all know how they feel about ag. But I do think ag is being targeted here, and I don't think that's fair. I think they have a target on their back from the environmental community.
Well, I think that was made abundantly clear in the public comment as well.
Yes, because there was a comment from a specific Sierra Club member who I think it actually kind of got you a little upset, didn't it?
A little bit, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, targeting our farmers as polluters and people that were impacting air quality and water quality.
Oh, poisoning wells.
That was what he said, poisoning wells.
Specifically,
Yeah. I did not appreciate that, being directed at our agricultural community. He was talking about the carve-outs that had been made in the bill.
Yeah.
And
we're not carving out industry. We're actually carving out, and they just listed whatever marginalized group they could think of.
Right.
So.
I think the Senate prime sponsor maybe didn't thoroughly read the legislation when she decided to prime it, because I think, or at least she thought that taking Title III out was going to solve the ag problem. So, Brian, you were pretty firm in telling her that ag was not taken out of this bill.
No, I mean, the agriculture section, but, the CAFOs are still included because the way that's intertwined within DENREC code. And it's weird how it's enforced anyway. I mean, there's an MOU or MOA,
Memorandum of Agreement.
Yeah, between Department of Agriculture and Department of Natural Resources. So, and they're working on that now, apparently, getting that tightened up. There's also another bill, House Bill 222.
Correct.
That is going after the nutrient management, which is definitely
the Title III that they took out of 210, they put into 222.
222, right.
And so they still are doing an increase of fees for penalties for violations,
right? But
it's just not as much.
Yeah.
So they did sort of compromise and reduce them. But CAFOs being left in 210 still exposes small family farms to a potential.
Now, and I said this on the
increase.
floor, and I said this in committee, and I'll say this on the floor too. I don't think our current secretary would exercise that maximum authority. I'm still opposed to the bill, but
it's a discretionary violation.
It's a discretionary violation. I think that what should happen is, in the off season, we should look to find a way to kind of untangle CAFOs with everything else that's in there, and at least give it, if it's got to stay in the DENREC title because the federal laws around it, then at least break them out into another section there, so that we can adjust the fines accordingly if there are violations.
Right. Yeah. It's our current Secretary of Ag. I agree with you, but we have to, when we're making these laws. DENREC. Okay, I thought you meant Ag. Okay,
Yeah,
yes, I agree. I think Secretary Patterson is very reasonable, but we don't know who the next secretary is going to be, and we need to make sure when we're passing laws, we need to. Okay, what is the worst case scenario? Look what happened in New York City. They have a freaking communist that's probably going to win the mayor race. So, I mean. Delaware is not too far behind California, New York. What happens if we have someone like that who becomes governor and they put someone in charge of DENREC who literally, that scares me very much, because they could be a target.
Who is anti, agriculture and
I mean, the comments that we're hearing in some of these committee meetings, it's very much aimed at ag. I really do. I mean, I've heard it myself. They think that farmers are polluters. And I do think that there is this effort to push the industry out of the state. I mean, I really do think that.
I know that for a fact. There was.
Why else would they be doing this?
Right. There was an individual that offered public comment that I have talked to before that was out there actively fighting chicken farms being built.
Yep.
So, and that's part of a larger group out there that's their goal is to fight those.
It came out on the House floor last night with 222 that CAFOs, I think, in ag were meant to be in from the beginning.
Sure, absolutely.
And that there is a target to farms
and dairy cows too
for the dust and the manure issues is what was said.
That's why I actually kind of have a different take though. Because it was mentioned multiple times throughout that committee hearing, and I believe in some of the House debate, that, when was the last time these fines have actually been administered? And it's been, I think Secretary Patterson's response to that was, with everyone, the DENREC, at least in 10, 15 years, we haven't seen it, but I think somebody even said it was longer than that. So my question is, why are they trying to rush this through? In my opinion, they want to rush this through, increase fines, because they do want to start administering.
Absolutely, 100%.
So I know, I would like to give Secretary Patterson a little bit of benefit of the doubt, but who is he being influenced by?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
We do know what organizations are out there trying to influence.
I mean, the
him,
environmental advocacy groups, they are very, very powerful, very powerful. And
for some reason, I don't get it.
yeah. So we'll keep our eye on that. I'm hoping we're not going to see it on June 30th, but I am unfortunately thinking that we probably will.
I think we will. Yeah. I think we will.
We'll get them
because it is in committee on Monday as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Or it's been assigned to Senate executive. We haven't gotten an agenda yet, but I have no doubt.
And we'll probably see HB 222 too.
Yeah.
So both of them.
We're literally targeting everything, all the industry that has made us successful over the years. We're literally targeting all of them. And
how funny was it? Didn't Representative Lambert, who's the prime sponsor 222 on the House floor, thanked Representative Vanderwind for working on the bill, and Jesse's like,
no.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't support this at all.
He did. He was actually very gracious, and he was very calm and collected. But he stood up and just said, I didn't really work on this bill, and I'm not going to support it.
Right. So this is how it works for people that don't know how Legislative Hall works. Basically, there will be a bill that's crafted that is going to be shoved down your throat, whether you like it or not. So you can get on board and be neutral, or we'll make it even worse. That's the way that this works. So when someone says they're neutral on a bill, it's basically,
No, well, a lot of the stakeholders were saying, they don't oppose the legislation.
Exactly.
It's
Right.
like, okay.
Right.
And
because they know if they do, they know.
Right.
There'll be
The
consequences.
repercussion, right.
Yeah.
So
there will
Farm
be
Bureau and
consequences.
DDA were put into a corner, and they weren't really consulted on the front end of this bill, like you would normally include stakeholders.
Right.
Or
I mean, the bills that we work on, the stakeholders that we include there. I mean, we try to do things the right way.
And so then they got cornered into basically working the best deal that they could, which was a reduction of fines, but in a separate bill.
Right.
And so in order to roll with that, they had to basically stay neutral or say that they weren't opposing it because they didn't want to piss anyone else off and let it remain in 210.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're going to go with the worst of the options. I mean, or the best of the bad options.
The best of the bad options.
And that's sort of the problem we get like in a supermajority too, because whereas like our caucus may have wanted to help them, there's not much we can do.
It's very dangerous when you're in a situation like we are here in Delaware, where the majority party does not have to work with anybody if they don't want to. They literally have the power to do whatever they want, and I think that's very dangerous when you need to be able to compromise. You need to have everyone at the table. And that's just not happening.
Which is crazy because in this situation, we have, 2 farmers in our caucus.
Yeah.
How many farmers, I know obviously Representative Vanderwind, but are any more in the House Republican caucus?
Representative Morris and Postals both have chickens.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So people who are actually experts in this, and they're not consulted, and their
And
concerns are dismissed.
Over 55% of the family farms are in Sussex County, too.
Right.
So
you do have some who will really work with you, and I will say that about when Sarah McBride was here as a senator. I do give kudos. Like, I felt like she really worked well with people. She would bring everyone to the table. She would make compromises, and that's what you need. I think it's getting less and less. You still have some here who do that, but I appreciate it when there's more compromise. But when it comes to these bills, I don't consider this, what has happened here, a compromise at all.
And so let me just remind everybody that on 210, there was a chance to table this bill in committee and to do it the right way with the stakeholders that should have been consulted beforehand. And it did not get tabled thanks to...
Go ahead, just say it, Christy. Just say it.
Thanks to Representative Bill Bush.
Yes. We need to let people know, the people that are making these decisions. And anyone can watch these committee meetings and see. So it's not like we're spilling secrets, so to speak.
Representative Carson on the Democrat side really wanted this to be worked the right way, and he pushed for it to be tabled. He wanted Farm Bureau to have access to this bill and to do it the right way and to work it that way from the beginning. And it was ramrodded through, basically.
Yeah, and that happens a lot.
Yeah. So
and we're at the 11th hour right now.
Right.
So they're trying to rush these bills that have major impacts on different areas of industry in Delaware, literally at the 11th hour, the last minute, without getting enough time to really sit down with the stakeholders and people that are going to be affected by it.
And I mean, I think the question should be asked. The headline is, why does Sussex County Ag pay for Newcastle County's air pollution?
Right.
Exactly. That's a good question.
Good.
Yeah.
Op-ed?
That sounds like an op-ed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she's done one. I've done one.
Oh, you want me to do it?
Do it.
Oh, I was
Sure.
gonna slap your name on it.
I think this should come from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You've just been voluntold to do it.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of the environmental advocacy groups and what they push, and this is another bill that is exactly like this.
Hold on.
Okay.
It almost sounds like we're not in favor of like.
I know what you're. No.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. It's not that we're not in favor. We want to be good stewards of the environment.
We do.
Absolutely.
We do.
Absolutely, we do. But we need to do it in a reasonable way. And as I'm going to talk to you about this bill, you're going to see how crazy. It's just the crazy stuff that's introduced.
We've got to do things in a balanced way.
Yes.
You know, look, the best thing would be if we all stopped driving cars, lived in mud huts, and, you know, didn't have any kind of impact to the environment at all. But that's not going to happen. You know, we live in a modern society that is going to impact the environment. We just need to do things and write the laws and have the regulations put out that strikes that balance.
Yes, and I agree with that 100%.
Well, we need folks to be engaged too. We need them to tell their story. We need them to tell, like in the 210 case, we need to know what the successes and the work that has been done to not pollute.
Right, and it makes it tough too, because you have these committee meetings in the middle of a day. It's like 100 and some degrees. These farmers cannot leave their chicken houses. A lot of times they walk their chickens when it's this warm, to make sure they're not crowding up. But then you have a lot of the environmental advocacy groups who are paid to be here. So a lot of times it's very off when you hear the pros and the cons when it comes from public comment.
And the environmentalists show up in strong numbers. So you are about 6 to 7 people deep in public comment that support these type of bills.
Right.
And you have no one from industry, no one from business, no one from the public sector really, because they're working.
Right. Yeah.
Now, this bill here that I was going to talk about, HB 111, we actually did have a lot of industry people show up in opposition to this, but it's basically known as the Skip the Stuff Act. And the bill bans food establishments from automatically including things like napkins, condiment packages, plastic utensils, takeout. They said even like salad dressing is included in this. But basically, unless the customer explicitly asks for it, you are not allowed to give it to them. And if you do, you're going to be fined.
Okay, hold on. So let's say, I, just for a photo op, went to a McDonald's and say, hey, I want to work the drive-through for a little bit. Let's just say that,
Let's make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to Mike.
Donald Trump did that, right?
Oh, he did.
Yeah, there you go.
And this law was in place, and I know that somebody got a salad, or I'm working morning. They got the big breakfast with the pancakes and stuff like that. They don't ask for a fork and a knife.
You don't give it to them.
I can't say, oh, no. Would you would you like the fork and knife?
You cannot ask.
You can't even ask that.
You can't. They have to explicitly ask for it.
Okay, big problem. Because Sussex County is a resort area. We've got people that come from all over the country. Let's say a Tennessee or, a North Carolina or South Carolina where they're not doing this stupid stuff. Okay?
She said piss.
I know. I try to watch myself. So and they come up and they get their stuff and then they drive away, and then those people are pretty darn angry when they take it back to their Airbnb. Now, probably not the Airbnb. They probably got stuff there, but they pull up to a parking space along the beach,
right? And
they want to eat their breakfast and watch that, and they open their stuff and they go, "Where's the fork? Yeah. Where's the knife?" And so this is one of the most ridiculous things.
Right.
Is this law anywhere else, by the way?
There are. The states that we model everything after, California and New York.
Is it statewide in California?
I don't know if it's statewide. When I was doing just a general, like what other states have this, it listed California and New York. You could probably look at it and see.
Yeah.
But nonprofits are exempt in this bill, and there was a representative from Grotto Pizza who he had a really, really good testimony, and he said, please explain to me why a plastic fork that comes from my for-profit restaurant is bad for the environment, but a plastic fork that comes from a nonprofit is not bad for the environment.
Like Greenwood Chicken.
Right. But he had a really good point. He's like, and I think, too, this goes back to the point of what you were talking about, the other bill. There was so much confusion about this bill. Even the Democrat sponsors, everyone in that committee said they were confused. by certain parts of the bill. Everybody was confused. They said there were a lot of things that didn't make sense. They weren't really sure how it was going to work. But then again, Mike Smith made a motion to table so we could work it out. Absolutely not. And that's what this representative said. He said, I don't understand. I literally just stood here and heard every one of you say that you're confused by this. You don't understand, but you can't, but you're going to move forward with it.
Right.
So, yeah, that's kind of.
And that's HB 111.
Yes,
right?
HB 111, and Representative Phillips is the sponsor in the House, and Senator Pardee is a sponsor.
It looks
in the
like
Senate.
there was a substitute number 2 that was introduced today.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm not sure what
I'll
kind of
check that
changes
out.
there are to it, but yeah.
I can't imagine it makes the bill any better.
It probably, I mean, the only good amendment to it was if it got stricken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a special guest that just came in. Would you like to pop in and say what's going on?
Yes. Sure.
We're talking about a bill that would make it.
No, you stay there,
I
Christy.
know. It's like.
I want to hear you sing on that mic, man. That thing is looking good.
Here, sit on his
Sit
knee
on his
there.
lap? Sure.
Yeah, sit on his knee there.
That's how we do things here. Hello, honey.
We've already cussed once. So.
Representative Dukes had his Santa socks on today.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what are we talking about?
So right now we're talking about House Bill 11, which is one of the dumbest
Skip
pieces
the
of
Stuff
legislation.
Act.
It
Skip
doesn't
the
matter.
stuff.
The Skip the
Blake has an answer here.
Stuff Act.
I have an announcement.
Oh. Oh,
Skip the
yes.
stuff.
So to answer your question, New York City, of course. It's as of 2023, Washington State, California statewide, and D.C.
Yeah, so what this
And
bill...
it's also called Skip the Stuff in D.C.
Okay, good. So,
Skip the stuff out.
So the skip the stuff is when you go to a restaurant or something and order takeout, they're not allowed to give you the utensils or napkins
yeah.
or, salad dressing unless you specifically ask for it.
okay.
Yeah.
It's more stuff that we have to cure, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's called ribbon cuttings. When they cut these ribbons for these bills, are they going to use like biodegradable ribbons?
Yeah.
Because that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's about getting your name in the paper, your name on a resolution, so you can run around and say you saved the world.
And they really do think they're saving the world.
Yeah.
Like, I sit in some of these committee meetings, and I see people crying
Yeah.
over this kind of stuff. And I don't mean to be insensitive, but I'm sorry. Okay,
Well,
maybe I do.
reality
You do.
is- Yeah, because I said it too. But the reality is, I think it's important to understand, it's none of us are saying that we don't want to better the planet.
Right.
Nobody's
right.
saying that we don't want to do the right
Right.
thing. But
Is he actually on
some
camera?
things,
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if you could see
some things are out of control.
You want him to sit on your lap, don't you?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's okay.
And you guys have been at it for a while.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, we thought it was going to be quick, but we just keep talking about stuff.
Yeah, how about it? How about when you slapped me on the floor? I'm a little offended. It happened so fast that no one saw it, but I felt it.
Yeah.
So look, and let me just we were talking about the bond bill
pop
earlier.
the
We
meme
covered
up
the
on
bond
the
bill that
screen.
we voted no. But during the roll call, Senator Buxton is like second on the roll,
Yeah.
and we all decided we were going to go either no or not voting, and Brown yes, Buxton yes. And I whip around like that, and he's like, "What? What?"
I think it was
Yeah.
more like, oh crap, I meant, oh, slap. And then I had to wait to correct the record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
we kind of, as he was turning, I realized, oops.
oops. Yeah.
As I'm like hovering over the send button to send a press release.
And then Matt and I were in my office together, and you said yes, and Matt and I.
I'm just panicked.
It was great. It was
Oh,
great.
it was fun. And
Yeah, it was.
I spoke to a few folks that are curious as to what's going on, and I said, well, I'll tell you what. We got some good leadership, and they're pretty savvy, and we're going to roll with it because I think it's the right thing to do at this time.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. We have to deal with the cards that are given to us. So, we that's our option right now. So
Yeah, it's not petty. It matters, and this is the option that we have left. So it's not petty.
No.
It's different than if you had options and whatever, and you're just being silly. We're not.
Mhm.
We're actually taking a stand for a legitimate reason. That's where we are.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll leave you guys to be. I'm going to go get in a fight with a beer.
Okay. Have a great night. Have a good
Have
weekend.
fun.
We'll see you Monday. Rest up. Rest up. That was special guest Eric Buxton, senator from the 16th district. Yeah, it was like 18. Okay, yeah.
Can't count it.
Yeah, I know.
We got
Yeah.
Dave Lawson, left half of Kent County and Buxton's the right.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah.
All right. So circling back to that Skip the Stuff Act, we'll keep everyone posted on that, but that was signed out of committee.
That is one of the most preposterous bills that has ever. And look, that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
And also we should mention that it's okay for restaurants to put out a smorgasbord.
Yes.
So you can do like a bar or a free for all on as many napkins or forks as you want, but you just can't give it to them.
That's stupid.
Yeah, well, it's really
Hence why I use the word crazy.
It's really tough for a business because how about either the people who take 50 that hoard the stuff,
Yeah.
or people who just waste it. I mean, you see that a lot, like
Right.
maybe with kids or whatever.
And I don't think that this is necessarily wasteful. When I get something to go and there's extra napkins, I always take those napkins and I put in my glove box.
Right.
So it's not like I throw them away.
I think everybody does.
Right. So then if I need them later, I use them. People do reuse this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mom used to hoard the Wendy's forks. And
Can't
those
believe you
things-
just
Dude, those
can't believe
things
you
could,
just
those things
threw
could
your
s-
mom under the bus like
No,
that.
my grandmother, they could stab a rock. Those things were legit for plastic forks.
Well, FYI, go to Sam's Club and buy a box of straws and some utensils and
Well,
maybe
that's-
just store them in your car.
That's going to be outlawed before long
Yeah.
because they did just
The styrofoam
the
stuff.
styrofoam
The
carryout
styrofoam
containers they
and
just
stuff like
outlawed.
that. They can't sell them.
Yeah. So I'm legit being serious when I say this. You just gave them another idea for a bill. Next we come back in January
Because
and
they
go
do
buy
listen
straws.
to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't they? We're pretty entertaining.
We are.
Yeah.
They just turned it off. All these corporations today,
Yeah.
finding everyone, and now they're going to target the chicken.
Right. And how many and where are we again in business friendliness? And we just keep piling it on. Like,
Yeah.
I hope we get everything.
Well,
I hope Delaware gets. And
We're
I hate
46.
To say that.
We got 4 more to go.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
We need to
And I
get
feel bad
50.
for the good business owners here that are trying to make it, and they're suffering with these crazy policies.
Yeah.
The DENREC and Del Dot fee package both passed the Senate last week, and they have been signed by the governor.
Okay. And did they take effect right away, or was there a delayed implementation on that?
I don't know about that. I don't know if Blake can look that up.
You
or
didn't
not.
look that up? You didn't know? I'm sorry.
No,
I was
I
playing
didn't.
Christy for a second.
I actually think it's July 1.
July 1, new fiscal year. That would make sense.
I think you're right on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, they'll be in effect, and everybody would be paying more now when you go to get a car which I didn't think Del Dots were insane. They were at least a little bit more gradual and palatable than the DENREC ones, which the DENREC ones hadn't been raised in a very, very long time. I think that's why they were more.
Since we were in high school.
Right. So I'm just going to say right now
Long
What?
that now that the fees have been increased,
Did you hear that?
I know we're old, Matt. I know. Now that it's increased, I expect that Cupola Park is going to be dredged. That's what I'm expecting to see now that
for
these
your
fees
boat.
have
Actually,
increased.
Driscoll Drone shout out
Yes.
on Facebook today posted. I don't know
Yes.
if you saw that.
I did.
The
I did.
low tide pictures of
How bad was it?
It's bad.
it's quite muddy.
Ugh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the dredge is back in the water.
It's been there since
I know.
lived there, and that's been 6 years.
Yeah. So, all right, DENREC, so let's see. The fees have been increased, so let's see if we can.
Get some dredging done.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. What else do you have, or is that it for episode
Well,
number 11?
I think Matt wanted to talk about the New York mayoral race. He seems to be a real fan of this
Well, you
Tommy
kind
guy
of
that might be.
who Mamdani? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
He was born in Uganda.
You're a fan,
Born in
right?
Uganda. He's been here for big fan. Been
Came
here
here at
for
7.
no, he's only been here for 6 years.
I read he came here at 7 years old.
Maybe he only lived in New York for 6 years.
He's got a lot of great ideas. He wants to have state-run grocery stores.
Yeah.
I mean, what could go wrong with that?
I mean,
Oh,
North
yeah.
Korea is working out really well.
Yes.
with
It
that.
is. Former Soviet Union, that was great. Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rent
I hope
control.
New
My
York.
Cheese, please.
I hope
want
New
my
York
cheese.
gets everything they ask for, good and hard.
I
do.
I
I do.
I agree as well. But it's funny because then you like compare or contrast the nonsense that's going on in New York and the uncertainty, and like you said, they're getting ready to elect a communist to be mayor, and then you look at what's going on the national stage with President Donald Trump, who in my opinion is probably having one of the greatest weeks. Oh yeah, let me show that sign again for those of you who maybe skipped ahead. You know, we're he's on a heater, really. Yeah. So if you look at it in baseball terms, right, he's on like a 22 game hitting streak. Yeah. Just cracking. I mean, he's just doing great.
I'm an Orioles fan, so we don't have that right now.
Yeah. No. That was a great game I went to on Sunday up in New York. So anyway, I just think it's fascinating, especially because I know here in Delaware, talking positively about President Trump can sometimes not go over too well. But I do think it's worth mentioning, even regardless who the president was, he did what he had to do to end Iran's nuclear program. Didn't start World War III, despite calls on our side of the aisle as well, saying it would, and left. He got NATO to up each of the countries' spending to 5% of the GDP, right?
He got called daddy.
With the exception of Spain, the Secretary General, I believe that's what the title is of NATO. said, how did he word it? I wish I had that printed out. Basically, it's like because they were talking about the F-bomb that Trump dropped before he left. He goes, sometimes daddy's got to use strong
right. He wasn't really calling him daddy, but that's kind of what the way it went.
So I don't know. I do think it's worth mentioning that at least on the national stage, it seems like we have effective, competent leadership. Yes. We're finally, in my opinion, respected in the world again. I think that's pretty evident by what we see going on with NATO. The fact that Iran literally told us they were going to drop a couple missiles. So you should probably evacuate. And that was kind of their quote-unquote retaliation. That right there just shows that they didn't want that smoke, as us young folks say.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to admit when you're wrong. Because you know me, I always kind of doubt Trump and always question the stuff he does. So it's nice to be wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
And another thing, too, I wanted to point out that I thought is funny is the people that are voting for this crazy guy in New York, Kamala's stepdaughter, I guess she felt trauma when she went to vote. I'm like, you poor thing.
Why was she traumatized by voting?
Because it brought back memories of when she went to vote for Kamala in New York for the presidential race, and I guess she didn't win. So,
and these are the young adults that are going to be maybe leaders in the future.
God help us all.
I mean, what have we? What have parents done? I mean, what have parents of our generation done to make kids like that?
Here's my theory. You want to hear it?
Yes, please.
I think
always want to hear your
our
theories.
generation. Let's be honest. We didn't really have. Our parents were always gone. They were doing something. We raised ourselves. I feel like our generation did.
Kind of did.
We did. I mean, I would go out in the mornings, and me and my cousins, we were gone for the day. We would check in with mom and dad, maybe at lunch, and then we'd see them at night. I think our generation overcompensated by being too involved.
Helicopter parents?
Yeah, maybe. And I think we handicapped our children as a result because they have to have their hands held, and we made decisions for them that they should have been making for themselves. Maybe this generation will be like, go back to how we were raised, because of course every generation thinks they're the best, but I feel like we're problem solvers, we're critical thinkers.
Millennials suck. We do. I don't think we're the best.
Yeah. Okay.
Gen Z's borderline.
Okay. Yeah. So that's my theory. Could be.
I don't know. I mean,
I feel like I have a hard time having a conversation with someone like this Emhoff girl. I have no doubt I would make her cry in a second, because I feel like I couldn't.
You would.
I couldn't be honest with her. I couldn't actually talk to her, and it's just we have a lot of people need to just kind of
toughen up.
Yes.
Get some thicker skin.
Yes. And don't take everything personal. Yes. Like him and I talked about that. Like Brian could come in and yell at me and scream at me, which he doesn't. But if he did, I'm not going to take it personal. It's.
We'll try it out on Monday.
Yeah. But I do think
we'll give you time to forget about this.
As far as a larger argument, just kind of looking big picture though, the nation clearly told the Democrat Party that they felt they were moving too far to the left, and you could see in kind of the aftermath of the 2024 election, in which Republicans won the presidency, secured majorities in both chambers in the Senate and U.S. Congress, kind of in the immediate after, you could see that it looked like they were starting to moderate. Well, that lasted about 5 minutes, really. Mm-hmm. And now you see what they just did in New York. I mean, if that's who, so you figure if he's and the thing is, like Chuck Schumer, who was supposed to be, all things moderate Democrat, Chris Murphy, senator from Vermont, I believe it is,
so, yeah.
and a couple others came out and still congratulated him, said, "Oh, we look forward to working with you." It's clear, in my opinion, that they're embracing these wild policies, but then you think, well, maybe Delaware is shielded from that. Well, you start talking about House Bill 111, some of the other pieces of legislation that
we aren't shielded from it. We're leading the way.
That's what I'm saying. We're starting to embrace it as well.
The way.
And I know we don't like talking electoral politics here on the official government podcast of the Senate Republican Caucus, but people need to really start paying attention, in my opinion.
I agree.
And if they have, and I shouldn't say that because I think they do, but we need to make sure they're getting out to vote. They're well informed, whoever you're voting for, right? It doesn't matter the party. To make an informed decision, especially if you disagree with policies like this.
Yeah.
I agree.
Absolutely.
All right.
That close it out. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that was great. Nothing else left to say. Matt just said it all.
There you go. So anyway, like we said, this is the final episode before June 30th.
And we will be doing a vlog. Is that the correct word?
We will probably be doing a vlog of June 30th. It's kind of like a little behind the scenes of what goes on here.
We're going to get
that'll
Senator
be
Pettyjohn to do a little TikTok dance.
Indeed. That'll be posted, well, the dance I don't know about, but the vlog will be posted on, our YouTube and all of our video platforms that we're on. We'll probably post the full thing to Facebook too, but, we'll see.
Christy's excited. Look at her.
We'll get her actually saying a real cuss word instead of piss. Maybe we'll have to...
Well, she had her phone going off a second
ago.
Did I say that?
You
Yeah.
did.
Ooh.
Well, that's what she was afraid of. That's why she didn't want to come on. She said,
Yeah.
"I'm afraid I'll curse if I come on." But you didn't. That's not a curse word.
No, not really.
Anyway, look, social media, follow us along at DE Senate GOP on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. What else? We're everywhere else. YouTube. This podcast, by the way, if you are just happen to catch it, other episodes are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, full videos on YouTube and other places as well. DelawareSenate.com, SenateGOP.Delaware.gov. We're getting really long.
But hey,
Maybe we just
there's
need-
one big thing we didn't discuss.
What?
Resignation over the House.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, my SD card has about 13 minutes left, so we'll get through this quickly. Yes.
I was just actually looking through the news, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, we should talk about that really quickly because we mentioned on the last episode.
We did.
Big news in the General Assembly. I guess
Representative
former
District,
now we can
yeah.
say Representative Stell Parker Selby from the Milton area of the 20th District announced her resignation. Of course, she suffered a pretty serious medical episode back in December. It unfortunately rendered her unable to attend session this entire year. I mean, look, obviously we wish her well. I think most of us in this room have known her for quite, you two especially, a lot longer than I have.
Yeah,
But
most of my life, really.
awesome lady, great family. Wish her nothing but the best. But we now have a special election to look forward to within the next, I think early August probably will happen.
Yeah.
So that will be happening. But yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, I messed up your, listing of all of the platforms that we're on.
That could go on for another 5 minutes. 'cause
Yeah, maybe we
keep
just need to
adding
list it in
stuff.
the post as
Yeah.
opposed to listing them all.
Actually, you need to pre-record like an ending with all that stuff, just so you're not rambling on.
You're rambling,
You
Matt.
ramble.
We'll close with Ramblin' Man. Isn't that a song? I don't know.
Yeah, Rambling Man is a song.
Okay.
Waylon Jennings.
Daddy Rebel. Oh, God. Oh, Daddy Ramble. Ramblin' Rebel. Hot dog.
Rambling
right.
Rebel. Oh yeah.
No, that's a podcast. That's a podcast voice there, Matt.
Oh, God.
I got nothing. I've got nothing.
We'll see you next week.
See you
Thank
next
you.
Yeah.